I hit my first 100 kilo bench press before I turned 18. Before I was technically an adult, I could already bench press 100 kilo. 1% of all gym lifters, let alone the bench press of people globally. I could bench more than 1.5 times my body weight before I was an adult, before I was 18. Weighing 68 kilos, I could bench 100 kilos with great form, great technique. And it took a lot to get there. There's a lot of knowledge, a lot of practice that went into actually being able to achieve this feat. And I want you, who's also interested in that, to be able to go through that as well and hit that 100 kg bench press just like I did. It's a huge, huge milestone in the gym fitness journey. And of course I want it for you. So let's show you how to get there. It's that easy. So this is how I increased my bench press by 45 kg as a teenager who still went to school, ate his parents' food, all that jazz, lived at home, and I still increased my bench by 45 kilos in 12 to 18 months. I went from that scrawny little kid that's probably what you are now, or that fat little kid, to a teenager who is strong, looks great, benches great. And you want to brag about it, bro. You want to brag about your bench press. You want to fucking say, yeah, I did this, I did that. Look at me, look how strong I am. You want people to look over at you when you're doing your exercises, think down. Have you seen them like Instagram reels where it's like people's reactions to my lifts or whatever, and they're lifting however much weight, and they zoom in on people's reactions in the background? Yeah, you secretly want that, bro. And I'm gonna teach you how to do it right now. Let's go. So, the first point is that mass moves mass. You need to be able to bulk. You need to be heavy to bench more weight. It's that simple. It's a fact. It's a stone cold fact. It's a simple law. It's literally a fucking law of physics. That the more weight you will weigh, the more likely you will be able to move more weight. It's like the more inertia you are, the more inertia you're able to move. It's that simple. Now, you could turn around to me and start saying, well, actually, there's people that are stronger and they're actually lighter weight and they're stronger so they can lift more. And yeah, that's true. But if you take the same person with the same technique, the same skill level, the same emotional arousal, they're the same person, but one's 70 kilo, one's 100 kilo. That 100 kilo person will lift inevitably more weight than the 70 kilo person. Which therefore proves my point that the heavier you are, the more weight you will able to lift. It is that simple. So if you're sat there being like, I can't lift a lot of weight, I'm not strong and I want to get strong, and you're fucking 55 kilos and you've been going to the gym for a couple of weeks, like, what do you want? You know? You're literally not heavy enough to be able to lift enough. It's that simple. Especially for your skill level, the amount of time you go into the gym, your technique, and all that sort of stuff. We teach how to get better at the skill and your technique in my course below. I teach you how to get a great physique, and along the way you'll be able to learn so many tips and tricks on, you know, how to bench properly, different hypertrophy hacks, and all that sort of stuff to actually get you strong and get your technique down and your form down and build you the greatest physique that you could ever possibly want. So if you want that, here's the first link in the description. But you need to bulk, bro. It's genuinely that honest. You need to bulk. I made this mistake personally when I was starting my gym journey. I was super scared of bulking. Super scared. And the reason I think was because I didn't want to get fat. But if you bulk in the correct way, that I'll run you through literally right now, 5-10 minutes of your time, and it would change your whole perspective on bulking, because I never bulked and I kind of stayed at the same weight, and my progress was so stagnated and so fucking just slow compared to the person that'll probably bulk and then cut down within a year and make 10 times more progress than I did. Excuse me, bro. So you see, how do I bulk? What is bulking? How do I bulk? I don't have a clue. I get it. Bulking is kind of this like, it's just used as a term, and everyone expects people to know what it is. So bulking is eating more calories, more food, more energy than your body needs to maintain its weight. So therefore, you purposely put on weight as a result. So there's a metric and there's a measurement called maintenance calories. And basically, what this means is it's the amount of calories, the amount of food you will have to eat to be able to stay and maintain your same weight. That's where the term maintenance comes from, maintenance calories. This amount of food that you have to eat stay the same weight. It's that simple. And bulking means you'll go 200, 300 calories above that value in a calorie surplus, so eating more than your maintenance, and that way you purposely put on weight. So you're eating a certain amount of calories to the point where your body is too many calories to be able to maintain. It can't just get rid of them. It has to store them somewhere, stores them as excess weight, and that's how you put on weight as a result. So you know you need to eat in a calorie surplus. But how do I know my maintenance calories? How do I know, therefore, what my calorie surplus is? I always recommend the same app. It's Calorie Calculator. It's actually not even an app, it's a website. Calorie Calculator, C-A-L-O-R-I-E, Calculator. And it's got like a grey calculator as the logo or something. And you go in there, you put down a few metrics like your age, weight, height, activity level, things like that. And that'll just give you how many calories you need to eat to maintain your weight, your maintenance calories. And then instantly below that, it'll be your cutting calories, or what you need to be in a calorie deficit. This is just because most people that go on this app want to lose weight. You hear this all the time with like fucking middle-aged people. They want to lose weight, I want to lose weight, so that's what's instantly suggested. However, there's a little button at the bottom, and it'll be show results for weight gain. And obviously you're interested in weight gain if you want to weigh more, move more, be able to bench more weight. It's that simple. You're interested in weight gain. So you'll click that button, and it will give you your maintenance calories, which is here, which is what you would have just seen on the first page. And then you got below it, it will be calories to gain a certain amount of weight a week. So it'll be a quarter of a kilo a week, then half a kilo a week, then 1 kilo a week. And I want you to pick the weight, the amount of calories that enable you to gain 0.25 kg per week. We want to make it a steady bulk. We don't want to fall for the propaganda of, or just eat whatever you want as long as it fits your macros and go in a dirty bulk. We do not want to fucking fall for this propaganda. Now, you may be familiar with a YouTuber called Sam Sulek, and this is a YouTuber who, like, he just films in the day in the life of his eating and whatever, and he'll eat like a gallon of fucking chocolate milk, he'll eat McDonald's, he'll eat all the shit in the world, and then loads of fitness influencers will jump on this bandwagon and be like, oh yeah, see, he eats whatever he wants, so I'm going to tell loads of people to eat whatever they want because that'll make them feel good. And they're just basically farming for views and not actually giving you genuine results, genuine progress. And that's not what I want for you. I don't want you to be falling for this lies and propaganda that the fitness industry are putting on you just because they want to get more views. People want to feel comfortable. People want it to be as easy as possible. So they take advantage of your feelings and able to say, you can eat what you want, straight up barefaced lie to you. And then you're wondering why 2-3 months down the line you're the biggest you've ever been, or the unhealthiest you've ever been. It's because these fucking fitness influencers are fucking feeding you bullshit advice just for the sake of views. And I don't want that for you, so I don't want you to fall for this propaganda. Dirty bulking is a cope for people that just want to eat loads of fucking food and are fat motherfuckers. It is that simple. Eating whatever they want. Because, bro, in what world will eating McDonald's every day? I just want you to think about how insane that is. In what world would eating McDonald's every day get you to a great physique? It's too good to be true. Too good to be true. So you know it's not the right way. Intuitively, you know that it can't be right. And that's because it's not. But these influencers, again, take advantage of your feelings just for some fucking clicks, man. It fucking upsets me, bro. The amount of people that I've seen that have been like, oh, this advice was said to work and it didn't work. And, bro, how upset physically they get and emotionally they get after a certain amount of time of thinking that they're doing the right thing and thinking that they're being productive and they're not. So I don't want you to fall for this propaganda. Just because it fits your macros and eating loads of shit in terms of a dirty bulk and eating too many calories over your maintenance is going to end up with you just being ridiculously unhealthy. So don't fall for that fucking propaganda, man. So that's why you only want to eat maybe 200 to 300 calories over your maintenance. Just a quarter of a kilo a week, steady weight gain, and then eventually you'll get put on enough weight. Healthy weight without too much fat tissue. That's the difference. When you try to put on less weight, then obviously less weight gets put on as fat and more weight gets put on as muscle over time. Because obviously if you're eating more and more food, the more and more fat you're going to be putting on, which is the more work you'll be able to give yourself when you're cutting down, if you cut down. So keep it a steady weight gain. You'll put on less fat over the course of the 8-10 weeks that you'll be doing the bulk, and it'll be easy for your cut. And you'll actually maintain health, which is the whole fucking point of this. So you want to eat 200 to 300 calories over your surplus, steady weight gain. That simple. Now you're thinking, right, I know how many calories I should eat. I kind of know my macros. I know I should be bulking to eat more, to move more fucking weight on the bar. But I don't really know what to eat. And the simple thing for that is just keep it simple. It's my simple rule of whole foods only. Now, a whole food is basically a food that doesn't really have an ingredient list. It itself is the ingredient. So like a cucumber, for example, doesn't have an ingredient list. It is just a cucumber. Example of a whole food. Another one, eggs, doesn't have an ingredient. Sorry, I got the hiccups, bro. Eggs, another example of a whole food, doesn't have an ingredient list. It is just an egg. So you want to specifically eat whole foods. Get an ingredient list, 20 to 30 ingredients that are whole foods that you can make meals out of. Make example meals out of these things, and then just eat that every single day. And what I do is I make a schedule. This is a bonus tip. The schedule is super, super important. You know when you wake up and you're like, damn, I have to eat this, and I know I have to eat this, and I don't know how I'm going to eat healthy today, I'm not sure what's in. A schedule removes all that uncertainty straight away. You know exactly what you're going to eat, when you're going to eat, because you've built this schedule, and then all you've got to do is make it, bro. That is that simple. You know you're going to make your calorie goal because you've already thought about it preemptively in advance. You know you're going to hit all your macros healthily, and you know you're going to make progress towards your goals because you're constantly hitting these goals that you've preemptively made and thought about a schedule for. It's that simple. So for me example, I'll eat 6 eggs and 3 toast with a little bit of butter. I'll have that at 12 p.m. Then I'll go to the gym, do some cardio or whatever, come back at like 3 p.m, have 3/4 cups of uncooked rice, cook that, and then I'll have 2 chicken breasts, cook that, eat it, bam, 1250 calories, that simple. Then I'll have either my protein meal or I'll have my tea with my family, which would be about roughly 800 calories, and then I'll have a scale bowl after. And that constantly, just knowing that I'm going to eat that every single day, puts me in a state of calmness of being like, yeah, I know I'm going to hit my calories today because I just eat the same shit as I always do. And it's that simple. And that makes meal prepping easier. That means hitting your goals easier. And it's so, so easy. So I do definitely recommend just a fucking schedule of foods. Like you would have a schedule for a workout. Like you would have a timetable in school. Schedule your meals so you're always hitting it. And then just record it on MyFitnessPal. It's that simple. So that is basically just the guide. Ultimate guide for a bulk within 13 minutes? Ultimate guide for a bulk for you right there. And being heavier and having more mass is going to be able for you to bench more weight. It's that fucking simple, bro. So, you're already heavy. In an ideal world, you're already fucking absolutely massive. And now you just want to get better at your technique, form, and bench more often. It's that simple. Treat bench press like a skill. The more you practice a skill, the better you'll get at it. So you want to bench as much as possible. Now, I say as much as possible with a pinch of salt because, yes, benching 6 times a week, 7 times a week means you're doing it more, you're practicing the skill, but you're getting fatigued, you're exhausting your nervous system, and that's going to not only take away from like your performance practicing the bench press, but then it's also going to take away from your results when building a physique, building an aesthetic physique, which I assume you want to do alongside improving your bench press. So I wouldn't recommend doing it more than 3 times a week. I'd say 2 or 3 times a week if you're... Scratch that. I'd say 3 times a week if you're pure in prioritising benching as much as possible. If you want to become a powerlifter or you just want to get as much weight on the bar as possible, and that's more important to you to building a good physique. I'd say once a week if you're purely optimising, just I want to build as aesthetic physique as possible, I want to look great for girls or whatever the reason may be, and I want to fucking look amazing and feel confident. You want to maximise your gains aesthetically, Then I'd say bench once a week. And I'd say if you want both results, I'd say meet in the middle. It's that simple, meet in the middle. Bench 2 times a week. It's not going to inhibit your aesthetic physique in any way, shape or form. And it's also, you're still practicing the skill enough to get better at the skill. It's that simple. So I'd say probably for me, I bench twice a week. So I think that would work for you. If you really, really want to push hard, you can do 3 times a week. However, that may hinder your aesthetic gains just because it's another exercise that you're using for chest. It's extra sets that you probably don't even need, and it's just probably going to exhaust your nervous system out. So it may be a little bit detrimental. You'll still make great gains regardless. However, it's up to you. It depends on your priorities. And then you want to get good at the technique. It's that simple. And the technique really isn't talked about enough. People think the bench press, it makes me laugh actually, people think the bench press is actually started lying down, when actually it's not. You will always start a bench press sat up. You will always start a bench press sat up, and this is a lesson that I want you to know. This is how you set up for the bench press, right? I'll just give you a little quick demonstration. You want to sit right behind the bar. Imagine the barbell is here. Imagine I've got a barbell, sorry, please, just absolutely fucking. Imagine the barbell's here. You want to start here. You want to put your feet out as far as possible on the bench. Literally point your feet out as literally far as possible while keeping them on the ground. And then, from there, I want you to roll down so your feet are now flat as you're rolling down, and put your bum all the way to the bottom of the bench. Obviously I'm on a little chair, so this is about as far as I can go, but imagine my bum is at the bottom of the bench, and the barbell will be here now. Then, I want you to dig your lats into the bench, almost like, imagine putting your lats in your pockets. So you're tucking your lats into your pockets like this, creating that arch, and then I want you to, obviously the barbell's here, and then I want you to push back and roll your body up flat along the bench, roll your body along the bench until your eyes are directly below the bar. And that way you'll create a correct arch, your feet will be in the right position, and then once you're here, I want you to unrack and then lower your bum back down to the bench. So you're still having that arch in your back, but your bum's on the floor, and also, well, not on the floor, your bum's on the bench, and so are your lats as well. And that way, you're in the perfect position for not only leg drive, because you want to push your legs this way. So if your bar's here like this, you want to push that way. So almost like your head as far away from your feet as possible. That's how you want to push for leg drive. Your feet are in the perfect position for leg drive. You've got a great arch for stability and also force production. Your hands are correctly in the right position. It's up to you. So you see the lines. There's typically a certain amount of lines on a bar, and there's lines that are kind of like shoulder width, and I put my thumbs on the line and then have them out like this. So I put the tip of my thumbs on that line, and that keeps me in the right position for my hands to be able to lift the most force for me. But obviously it depends on the person. So now your feet are in the right place, you've got the right posture, your hands are in the right place, and that's the perfect setup for bench press. And I just want you to keep practicing that setup constantly until you're able to become comfortable with it, and then you perfect the form. And then you're already well on your way to benching more and more weight. I actually have a story about this, right? So I used to live with my mate, and he never, ever, and I promise, ever did bench press. He was like, nah mate, it's not really that good for muscle growth, I just much rather do flat dumbbell press. And I was like, you fucking kidding, bench press is super fun, the fuck? So we always had a disagreement about that, and he'd never do bench with me. And one day he was getting stronger and stronger, and he was like, you know what, I reckon I could get the 100 kg bench, because he's always only done bench for PRs with me. Only ever done bench for PRs, right? So I'm like, sweet, he's gonna finally hit 100 kg. You know, you rack it up on the bar, I'm behind and I'm lifting it off for him, you know, make sure he's ready and that. And I'm hyped for him because I've already hit 100 kg and I know it's a great fucking feeling. And you'll get there one day and you'll know it's a great fucking feeling. And I'm super hyped for him. I've got music on. As a spotter, I've got music on, bro, because that's how hyped I am. It goes down, it gets about halfway, and it stops. I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake. Take it off him. But I noticed his form wasn't actually that good. Like, it's like, the way he's set up wasn't great. So I'm like, Jay, I'll just call him Jay. I was like, Jay, do you actually, like, use leg drive at all when you're doing bench pressing? And he was like, what? I was like, oh, leg drives. You're not like, push with your legs. And he's like, nah, I just kind of press it, bro, like a dumbbell press. So I ran him through the form that I literally just gave you then. I was like, you just got to put your feet here, you roll back, and you go up, and then your feet are in the correct position for leg drive, and you want to push your body that way so your leg drive kicks in. He did it, and I promise you, 100 kg flew up the bar. And he literally, I remember him, he sat up, he turned around like he's seen a ghost. He turned around like that, and I was like, mate, I was telling you, the setup is super, super important. Super important. So that's the importance of a setup, because the way you set up is imperative to how much you're going to bench. This is why all the powerlifters have a set routine. This is why the world's strongest men, again, have the same form. It's because that's what you need to do. That's how the posture you need to have to exert the most force. So the better you'll get at that, the better you'll be at bench. And now I want to talk about the warm-up. I know a lot of you probably clicked off the video when I said about the warm-up. Look, I get it, we're teenagers, we're cocky, we're brash, we don't want to do a fucking stupid warm-up, we want to just do the fucking exercise. But I promise you, the importance of a warm-up, getting the blood flow to your muscles, make sure your muscles are prepared for action, it's just a way to skip injury and also just have a better chance of hitting that weight. It's that simple. Like, I want you to imagine two scenarios. I want you to imagine someone that hasn't done a warm-up, probably hasn't benched in a while. They're not going to lift as much weight as a guy that's warmed up and been practicing every time he has. That's optimal. So maybe twice a week, 3 times a week. He's not going to do it as well because his muscles are warm, they're elasticated, they're used to movement, they're ready for movement. He's prepared his mind, which will then prepare his body with these small little contractions. And his muscles will be genuinely so much more prepared for that weight. You know when you like rack a weight and you've not really warmed up and like your arms are shaking and you're like, you don't feel confident about the weight before you've even moved it. That takes a big hit on your mentality as well as your actual physical production of muscles. And I tell you what, mentality is super, super, super vital when lifting a weight. If you go down on the weight and you think, I'm not getting this up, it ain't going up. It's that simple. And if you go down on the weight and you think, oh, this feels alright, I'm going to fucking push this up and it's going to go up, you're going to get that fucking weight up. So when you haven't done a warm-up and you're going down not feeling comfortable about the weight going back up, more often than not, it's not going to go back up. So the importance of a warm-up, not only physically, but psychologically, is absolutely insane. So I, obviously, as a cocky brash teenager, bro, I've fucking been there. I still am one, bro. You've got to humble yourself. You've got to realise, you've got to have a bit of humility. Like, no, I'm not too good for a warm-up. I should get a warm-up in. Excuse me. I'll get the warm-up in and I'll be sound. Now, the routine for the perfect warm-up. Again, I have the entire perfect warm-up routine in my course below, so if you want the exact protocol for how I warm up for upper and lower body, it's in the course in the description. But I just typically use elastic bands. I just typically use the muscles that, will be used in this exercise. So for upper body, I'll do my rotator cuffs. I'll get a band and I'll wrap it around the bar of the bench, if that makes sense. So obviously you'll have a rack where you'll bench press, and I put it around one of the poles of the rack, and I'll do my rotator cuffs. Then I will do rear delt flies with the bands, of course. Then I obviously do the chest press. I stand on the band and do just curls to lubricate my joints, my elbow joints and stuff. Obviously you should be coming down with your elbows and stuff. I'll be doing the shoulders, and I'm pretty sure that's it. And then I'd also do, with the bench, I'd get the empty bar and I'd just do loads of little mini presses. So like not doing full reps, but I'd come down and do like also like mini presses like that, just to get my body just warmed up. And then I'd go into obviously bench pressing the bar with full reps. And then I probably put like 50 kg on there, do that. Then I do a 70 kg and I just work my way up until I'm hitting about 80% of my max. And then that's the warm-up ended, and then I'm ready to go into my top set, or then I'm ready to go into my PR attempt. So that's the perfect routine for a warm-up. Obviously, more depth in my course below. Then you want to recognise where you fail. It's super, super important to fail, and this is the same with literally everything in life. But when you do fail, you've got to have that awareness that you've got to not have that Bro, I've just forgot the term. You've just got to not be in a sulk. That learned helplessness of like, oh, I failed, fuck this shit, like I can't be asked of it anymore. No, you failed. Where did you fail? And how can you improve? And it's the same with bench press. If you're failing in the bottom half of the rep, it's probably more of a chest or shoulder weakness because you're not initially pressing that up. You're not getting the bottom of the rep isn't going up at all. If you constantly find that you can literally not get it off your chest ever, it's probably a chest or shoulder strength issue. So then what you want to do with that is you want to do isolation exercises, like obviously a lat raise for shoulders obviously, or a chest press. And you want to focus on isolation exercises and progressive overload to be able to build the strength in that particular muscle where you're failing on your bench press, so that you get better obviously at not only the isolation exercise but also the bench press as well. If you notice that you're failing, say maybe you're every time you bench you constantly press and you get about halfway and you can't lock out. This was a really big problem for me. Every single time I do a PR, I think I'd get it up and I get to up here and I just can't do the final portion. I can't lock out. And the reason for that is because my triceps were too weak. I was pressing to here, my chest and shoulders were absolutely fine, and then I'd try and lock out and I wouldn't be able to because my triceps are too weak. I wouldn't be able to lock out. You see the activation you get when you lock your arms at the top. See how much activation you get in your triceps? My triceps were too weak. So I spent 2, 3, 4 weeks, 5 weeks really focusing on progressively overloading, having that intention of progressively overloading my triceps every time it was time for that session. I'd super focus on my triceps, just progressively overload as much as possible. And what I also do as well is I do a different type of variation of bench press. So I don't really know what variations you can do for the lower area of the, say if you're failing in the lower portion of the rep. So that's why I just focus on isolation exercises for the chest and shoulders. However, for the top version of the rep, I put support either side just so the bar is stopping around halfway. So imagine you're doing a bench press, right? Imagine you're doing a bench press. Just pretend this is a fucking bar, bro. Imagine you're doing a bench press. Imagine that path, the arm path of a full bench press, right? I want you to imagine it coming down halfway, where you typically start locking out with your triceps, if this is where your weakness is. And I want you to put support either side of the rack where you put the bar and just place the bar halfway. So the supports are high enough where it's just resting above you. It's never going to touch your chest, the supports are too high and it's lay on the supports. So for example, I'm lay here, the supports are about here, so then obviously the bar is laying there. It's never touching my chest, I can lie underneath it and it's just sat there on the supports. And then you want to just do bench press of that final portion of the rep. So it's sat on the supports here and you're just pressing like that, down back onto the supports, pressing like that. And what this does is it practices your lockouts on bench press. And once you can progressively overload, locking out on these types of exercises, the latter portions of the bench press, keep progressively overloading to the point where now you can lock out your PR. That's no longer going to be a weakness for you, because now you're practicing locking out. And that's typically one exercise or one variation of bench press that helped me, because I'd always get to a certain point, I'd get really hyped thinking, yeah, it's going to fucking go up, and then my triceps wouldn't be strong enough. So I practiced isolating the triceps, getting them stronger with progressive overload, and then also practicing a variation of bench press where I just get better at lockouts in general, because locking out on a bench press is a skill as well. You see so many powerlifters and strong lifters, they get to a certain point and then they just can't get the lockout. And then they don't get the rep. So if that's a particular struggle for you, then that's something that I did. Started to get over it myself as a 16 and 17 year old when I was struggling with it. And then finally, you want the correct arousal levels. Have you ever watched Eddie Hall bench 500, not bench, sorry. Have you ever watched Eddie Hall deadlift half a ton, 500 kilos? Have you ever heard of him talk about it? He literally, I remember he was talking about it and he said like, he had to go on a drug, like he had to have this psychological evaluation, and he had to be made believe that his kids and his family were stuck under this bar. He famously said that he wasn't deadlifting 500 kg that day in his head. he was lifting a car off his kids. And that relates to this because that makes his arousal level super, super high, like survival mode arousal levels. And that was the way he was able to lift that much weight. So of course, it's obviously not on the scale of like do or die. But you know when people say like gun to your head, could you do this? That's what we're talking about here. Like the arousal levels of your gun being to your head is so high that you're able to exert so much force. So that's why it's important to optimize your arousal levels before a PR to get you in the correct mode. And this is why, you know, when you get heartbroken and you get heartbroken games and you hit loads of fucking PRs. I hit my 100 kg PR on a heartbroken game, bro. I got broken up with like maybe a few weeks before, and I was fucking super high on my arousal levels, super fucking hyped, super pissed, super heartbroken, and all them things together gave me a huge arousal level to actually hit my PR. So it's super important that you have your arousal levels in check, and you can achieve this with like super loud music. I've seen that like really loud music on headphones is going to hype you up, get you into the correct arousal level to bench press more. Pre-workout, yeah, it's not perfect for your health, but I take pre-workout right now. I'm not ashamed to admit that. I take pre-workout right now and I fucking love it. It gets me hyped in the correct arousal levels. It gets me excited to go to the gym. Like I literally go to the gym just to have my pre-workout at this point. That way I'm never like missing a day. I'm super consistent. Caffeine as well. Having a spotter, having a partner who you're with that's shouting in your face, screaming in your face. These are all things that are going to increase your arousal levels to the point where you're going to be able to lift more weight. It's that simple. Just like Eddie Hall lifting that much weight off his kids. Obviously yours isn't on the same scale, but you're increasing your arousal level to build to the point where you're able to lift that. You know, when you're not really feeling it, you're feeling lethargic, your arousal levels are super low, you're not really arsed. That's when you're going to struggle with the weight that you would normally be able to lift. And that's because your arousal levels aren't at the right level. You're too under aroused, you're underwhelmed in your emotional and psychological state, so you won't be able to lift as much weight. So don't ever overlook like the caffeine, the music, the spotter. The spotter's super important because you don't have to worry about failing. That's another thing that you can take out your mind. You're not worried, oh, what if I don't get this? It's going to be so embarrassing. I'm going to crush my chest. I'm not going to be able to get it off. I've got to shout at people. If you have a spotter, that takes that worry out of the equation. So you're not even thinking about failing. You're just thinking, I'm going to get this fucking weight today. And that's inevitably going to make you more successful in a bench press. And all in all, that's everything that you need to be able to increase your bench press. Bro, I increased my bench press by 45 kg, and if you want a higher number than that, you've got to take this advice seriously. And if you want to progress so much faster, then you can get my course in the description below. I genuinely think that it's honestly a great course. Like, it's full of advice like this, and even more of like how you're going to be able to build a better physique, to attract more people as a teenager, to feel better in your own skin. Like, I feel like it's so common these days that teenagers just don't feel okay in their own body. They're ashamed of what their own vessel, you know, they're ashamed of what they look like. They don't want to take their top off. They don't want to go out to like fun parties or lakes or nice days out because of their physique. They get made fun of for it constantly. They don't want to play their sport because they don't look great or they don't think they look the part. And that takes so much enjoyment out of so many people's lives. So if I'm able to make this course and make it in the information accessible to you so you don't feel like that. The amount of people that feel shit, feel awful, purely because they don't have access to the correct information, purely because these fitness influencers are spouting bullshit to get their own personal gain. The amount of people that suffer from that. So me, making this course, making information available to you so you're able to live your best life, be happier, be more attractive, get the things that you genuinely want and feel fulfilled from that. It's a beautiful thing. And never let anyone say like it's shallow for wanting to look good, because it's not. Because you know, and I know, that I've looked fucking shit and I've gone to look absolutely like I look decent, bro. I look good for my age. And I can tell you, as someone that's on the other side, bro, I'd never, ever, bro, give me $10, $20 million. I'm not taking the whole physique back. It's genuinely worth that much. Like, my life is so good because of it, and I just want that for you. So first link in the description is where you're able to build a great physique, have them secrets, and gain access to that knowledge, and it will change your life forever. I promise you that.